I don't like calling people a liar. More often than not, that just reflects poorly on the person making the accusation. I mean, if you disagree with somebody, there could be a million reasons why you have a disagreement. Maybe the person doesn't have the right information, whatever. But intentionally telling you something that's not true, you have to really know that that's happening before you call them a liar. I was thinking about that when I saw a few stories that came out of the San Francisco Bay Area today. Because 2 weeks ago, everything in San Francisco Bay Area, and by the way, that's huge, that area. It's huge. Everything's changed now. Talking, of course, about the BART attack and how the vice president of BART, what was her name? Carrie something or other. We did a couple videos on it. Carrie wrote a memo to a board member, which I think she thought was going to be private, but the board member turned around and made it public. And she said, listen, we can't make the videos public because that would embarrass the people of color. That would increase the fear. That would increase, the racial and, the racial anxiety or whatever. We can't do it. We would, because you just can't do it. That's stripped the veneer off everything because they have all these videos. And the people who have the videos, the police and the people who are running BART, public agency, they know that their trains are sites for frequent episodes of black mob violence and black criminality. You guys remember the story we've done, the story we did last year. We've done it many times since then. BART even, the criminality was getting so bad on BART, some super genius came up with the idea to give the riders an app. After a year, they figured out like 80% of the complaints were about black people, even though black people only make up 10% of the ridership. I think that app has long since hit the dust because that was proof positive that, everything about that app, everything about BART was racist. My favorite thing to come out of the BART, the BART thing to me was perfect. It really was a really rare look at some public official saying, no, we have to be in denial, deceit, and delusion about the level of black violence in our system. Because if people knew what was going on in our trains, they would do one of two things. One, they'd stop riding them, or two, they'd kick all of our butts out of office so somebody would make these trains safe. Either way, they hid the videos, all because of race. Anyway, a day or two later, the San Francisco Chronicle, the local paper, the big local paper up there, they did a big editorial going, BART, you can't do that to us. You're a public agency. When any teens commit crimes, you have to let us know. Now, of course, so the Chronicle, in demanding that BART be honest, the Chronicle was buying into the biggest lie BART was telling, because the Chronicle did not say a word about everybody involved in the crime or the crime on BART as a black thing. So they were bought into the big lie that they were just talking a little bit about procedure. So when all this happened, I thought, you know what? There's an old saying in Southeast Asia. It says, if you sit by the river long enough, pretty soon all of your enemies will come floating by. So I just said, we're just going to sit here and wait to see what happens in San Francisco. And there's been at least two big things that happened in San Francisco recently. A bunch of the fellas got on a bus, beat the crap out of us, people on the bus. And of course, the same paper that was demanding openness and honesty from BART pulled the old, we don't know nothing about nothing. It was 10 teenagers. Remember, this is the same paper that ran a story less than a month ago. We did a video on it that talked about how in traffic court in San Francisco, when you have a failure to appear or people not paying tolls or other kind of traffic warrants, things that rise above the level of a simple ticket, usually a failure to appear, 50% of the people in that court are black, even though the population of San Francisco is 6% black. The paper and the supervisors and the other elected officials in San Francisco, they immediately figured out what was going on, that this was an example of white racism and black victimization that happens all the time everywhere and explains everything. "We've got to do better," said one of the supervisors. So the veneer is off, right? They're hypersensitive to all the racial stuff up there. Whenever there's a movie, a book about race, everybody's down with it. It's like, oh, this is fantastic. But you got a bunch of black people rampaging on the bus, beating up white people, and they look at the camera and say, well, we're colorblind. We don't, colored crime doesn't have any color. The only way to describe something like that is to call it what it is, a lie. What about this filmmaker out in Oakland? So this guy, I don't know, you know what? I don't know. I don't even care what he was doing in Oakland. He was doing some kind of documentary about the fellas. For some reason, he thought he would get a pass if he took $50,000 worth of video equipment into the ghetto of Oakland. See, you can't even take $50,000 worth of equipment into like a nice part of Oakland. He went into the ghetto of Oakland. Did his interviews. Hey, what's up? Why are you leading this life of crime? It's because we don't have opportunities for jobs. You know, that kind of stuff. As soon as they were done wrapping their stuff up, a couple of the fellas came by with weapons and suggested that they should turn over all their equipment to them, which they did. Now, here's the weird thing. In Oakland and Sarah, see, the local TV crews, they will not send a TV crew truck into Oakland anymore because they've had over a dozen examples of their reporters, their producers, and their equipment being victims of black violence and crime. A dozen. So now, they won't tell us like how they're doing it. They won't say like, yeah, we're sending armed guards, right? If we go to Oakland or Richmond or any of these other chocolate cities in the Bay Area. They won't tell you if they're armed or not, but so everybody who works for the station, they're down. They know the level of black violence. They know the severity, the quality of the black violence. They know. But they're just constantly in denial, deceit, and delusion about it. Oh, you're back on the train thing, right? Okay, we've talked a little bit about this before, but when you're a cop or reporter, I don't care if it's Monday morning, Sunday night, whenever, you're listening to the scanner. There's probably 20 people in the Bay Area who are listening to scanners, who have some kind of reporting capacity. Lots of times in the newsroom, you just put the scanner on. It goes through, picks up all the calls. A lot of calls from the cops. A lot of times you just put the scanner on in the newsroom and it's like background noise while other people are doing their work. Other times there are people with scanners and portable scanners in their pocket. Their job is to do nothing but listen to the scanners. So how many people heard that whole thing and BART went down when 40 to 60 black people went rampage through a BART station, through a BART train, beat the hell out of people, stole stuff from them, and ran off without a care in the world. They had a couple of other incidents, not quite as big, but just as nasty. Nobody heard that on a scanner. They don't report. Cop reporters don't listen to scanners. How many people were connected to the 40 to 60 people? How many cops knew about it? Did they know any reporters? How many cops, their girlfriends, their families, their friends, how many of them knew about it? Not one person knew, one reporter. Keep doing the math about all the people this thing touched on one level or another. All of a sudden, you're at thousands and thousands of people who knew what happened at that BART thing within 12 hours. Yet it took the paper days and days and days to do stories on it because they said, well, BART didn't tell us. Well, I mean, is that what reporting has come down to now, waiting for anonymous bureaucrats inside huge agencies to dribble out little news stories to you? You stand there with a little cup going, oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. May I have some more? Apparently. So not one reporter, not one news hound at any of those huge media outlets in the San Francisco Bay Area got one phone call saying, hey, something really weird happened on the bar last night. 40 to 60 black people rampaged through it. I thought you guys would know. No, somebody knew. Lots of people, lots of reporters knew. They decided to be in denial, deceit, and delusion about it, about the BART thing. They're in denial, deceit, and delusion about this case of the cameraman and his crew documentary. What about the people on the train? The bus, 10 people on the bus. There's a big story on Reddit this morning in the Bay Area. Somebody sent it to me. The Reddit story talks about, you know how we see these flash mobs, flash robs, I call them, in these stores, 5, 10 black people go into a store, rob the place, run out. Well, we're never quite sure what they're doing with all that stuff. I mean, we kind of assume it has some kind of nefarious purpose. Maybe it's going to end up sold somewhere. So this guy's riding a bus, and he goes, 10 black people hop on the bus, and they all have like the same thing. They have kind of big buckets of laundry detergent, liquid and powder, I think. And so these guys are loaded down. And this guy's just sitting there. This white guy sitting there like he's invisible. And the black people, the kids are talking about how they've got to get off this bus, this corner, so they can go to that store and sell it.
Police are trying to track down a group of teenagers who they say attacked a man right there near the Richmond BART station. KTVU's Christian Captain joining us live this morning from Richmond. And Christian, the city's mayor may have actually been a witness to part of that assault?
Yeah, I just got a phone with Mayor Tom Butt here in the city of Richmond, and he tells me that he did, in fact, witness that assault, a group of teenagers assaulting, punching, and kicking a man on the ground. Now, we have confirmed also that BART police responded to the incident, although it did happen outside the BART station. Investigators tell KTVU that they were investigating that report of a bunch of teenagers attacking that man. By the time they arrived on scene, the teens had left. BART officers searched the area for the teens but did not find them. The victim taken to an area hospital with unknown injuries. The case has now been handed over to Richmond Police Department since the assault happened outside of the BART station. Now, Mayor Tom Butt again told me just on the phone about 10 minutes ago that he saw the teens kick the man, then run away. He said they were videoing it with their phones, and he said that he called 911. He says he was dissatisfied with the response to the assault, calling 911. He says that they connected him to BART police instead of Richmond police. The mayor also says there are ongoing problems here outside the Richmond Transit Center.
And, I get a lot of complaints about the Richmond BART station anyway. I mean, all the time people are talking about how dirty it is and how nasty it is and how unsafe they feel there and that kind of thing. But so I'm gonna follow up on some of these things.
One more note from Mayor Butt. He said he was also disturbed because he says he saw at least 2 BART employees sitting in a truck watching the assault or close enough to the assault to witness it. He says they did nothing about that. So, again, we will continue to follow up on this story. Mayor Tom Butt saying that he's going to have a meeting later on. We'll try to catch up with him later on face-to-face to discuss this issue in more depth. He also says that he wants to work to try to make this area safer and more secure. He says he was also pretty shaken up seeing that assault happen literally right before his eyes.
And so I think the point of this big story is, there's so much going on. And once you have an episode like BART, I mean, however temporarily, maybe it'll be permanent, but everybody up there now, up in the Bay Area there, no matter how much denial they're in, and really the way it works out, I think like these people, like this many people are woke, this many people are kind of like half asleep, and this many people on the other end, they're the ones in denial, deceit, and delusion. We can't really touch these people that much, but in the middle we can. So when you get BART going, oh no, we're not going to touch those kids because they're black and we don't want to, freak everybody out. The people in the middle are going, hey, wait a minute. I ride that train. My friend rides a train. My mom, dad, sister, brother, somebody I know rides that train. I'm on their side. I'm not on the side of this bureaucrat who wants to protect black people from taking constant responsibility for their own actions. And so I think the Bay Area right now is kind of open and fresh to this stuff. So when they see 10, and you can check this out in the comments in the Chronicle, when they see 10 teenagers robbing people on a bus, they know what's up. When they see a couple of kids holding up a documentary thing in Oakland, they're going, instead of just saying, oh, that's just what happens in Oakland. No, everybody's going, hey, that happens a lot in Oakland. It happened on live TV once in Oakland. They're doing a live remote. Some of the fellas come up, steal some stuff, knock the reporter over and run away. They got away in a Mercedes, by the way. Just the other day, I had somebody on the YouTube channel come in and say, "Hey, Colin, we had a street fair in Valencia Park." I guess that's somewhere in San Francisco. He goes, "Yeah, we had a lot of black people come in and ruin it." "Ha ha ha, no they didn't, you're a fool." So it's like, everybody up there in San Francisco, all these places where the virtue display is on, full alert, San Francisco, Berkeley, Madison, Ann Arbor, what I'm talking about. I mean, they so want to believe that this little cocoon, this little bubble that they live in is really the real world. So, this guy's out there saying, "Oh, there's no problem in San Francisco, Colin." I mean, we've done a lot of stories in San Francisco. And we've done a lot of stories about how everybody up there is just in denial, deceit, and delusion about the people, not just the people who live in San Francisco, the people who come into the city to do their dirty work and get out. I mean, how many people in San Francisco do you know? I'm one of them who has been to San Francisco, been the subject of black criminality. Somebody broke into my car. Guy at the parking lot said it was a black guy. Called the cops. "Hey, what's up? Somebody broke into my car, stole my camera." "Okay, well, we'll take a report over the phone. We're gonna have to call you back. You're not gonna send somebody out?" "No, we don't do that anymore." So this is like, and of course, they never called me back. So, call this anecdotal. But the level of car break-ins and black criminality in San Francisco is off the charts. Nobody wants to connect the dots. And only the people who are lying about it refuse to acknowledge that there's so much denial, deceit, and delusion there is because nobody wants to make the black kids angry.